Most people have a booth. You have a hall here at MWC, very large showing. I want to talk about some of the big themes. I mean, every year we're talking about Internet of Things, 5G, and of course AI. But AI has a new relevance now thanks to the hype on stock markets. Should Ericsson be considered an AI stock?
The reality, I think there are AI stocks and there are different AI stocks. For us, AI is really a critical part on our product development, but it also goes into our product. So the way you run networks in the future will be AI based. And I think that's where we need to invest, and that's where we continue to invest. We started actually several years ago to build our own language models around telecom, where we control the input to the telecom AI. And that allows us to use much more AI in our internal operations, but also the way we run networks.
Well, let me ask where you're at when it comes to that, because Nokia, your big rival, has teamed up with NVIDIA to work together to develop artificial intelligence solutions within mobile networks. We know there is a bit of an NVIDIA aura at the moment. You've worked with them in the past, but do you need to do more with companies like NVIDIA at this stage?
For sure, we need their GPUs basically to process the AI. So we work with NVIDIA as well. The reality is, I'm not going to comment on what Nokia does, that's up to them to do. But for us, we invest very heavily in developing those type of solutions that we can actually deploy in the customer's network. And that you will see out here on the hall.
You and I have spoken for years about 5G use cases. I know a lot of companies are looking at AI use cases. How long does it take to move from those use cases to actual scaling some of the ideas?
The AI in reality requires connectivity, and it will be one of the new use cases that will need 5G connectivity to get the speed, the performance of your queries and the way you actually interact with, call it the models. So I think connectivity will play a bigger role, 5G will play a bigger role, but this is going to take some time. But the way it's ramping up probably says it will happen sooner rather than later. Then I can't really put a number of months or year on there, but it's going to happen very, very quickly.
You've taken issue with the pace of the rollout around 5G in Europe. Is Europe AI ready?
The connectivity in Europe actually is behind other parts of the world. So if you look at the 5G network in, for example, India, is much more advanced than it is in Europe. So in Europe, we have a problem, and it's in reality that our customers, the CSPs, simply do not get a return on capital. So they fight every day to make sure just to earn cost of capital. And when you don't do that, you are going to restrict investments, and that's what we see in Europe. So we think it's a concern. We need to change the industry. We need to allow in-market consolidation in order to get the scale of each of the operators.
The operators are making a big pitch together for a large-scale rethink of the European landscape. As we talk about more consolidation in Europe, what exactly are we talking about? Is it 4 mobile network operators to 3? Is it bigger than that?
No, it's for sure we need to look at them on market by market. So think about the US, 3 operators, right? Europe, 100 plus within the whole Europe, and most countries would have at least 4. So I think we need to allow consolidation per market to get the scale up, and then of course you're going to have cross-European consolidation as well as we move into a single digital market in Europe. That has not really happened yet, but it needs to happen. So I think there are a number of regulatory actions that the Commission needs to take here to change the industry's trajectory.
Cost has clearly been an issue for a lot of the operators. But something you and I have spoken about for many years has been the use of Chinese vendors in the equipment landscape. But I'm staggered to see that a lot of Huawei product is still being used, even in the 5G core. Does Europe have a massive issue with the security of its network as a result?
You know, the national security, I often say it's up to nation states to decide on national security, but I can recognize that our major competitor in Europe tends to be the Chinese vendors. So we compete with them on a daily basis in Europe. So that has not changed. That's really the way the market is.
Let me ask you about the demand cycle for equipment sales at this point, because the latest results that we've seen from a number of companies suggest some demand issues. India in decline now, we've seen some layoffs across the industry. Just where exactly are we at when it comes to that demand story?
Oh, you're right. You know, when you look at the demand, if you look over long periods of time, the market for mobile infrastructure has been flattish, we say, right? It's cyclical, but it's flattish. And that's what we think will continue. And right now, we are at the stage where our operators need to be cautious on investments, or they are cautious on investments because of the returns. And we see a bit of a normalization in India, I would say. So we have said 2024 is likely a declining volume as well. Maybe not as much as 2023, but it will decline. And we need to adjust accordingly.
Deloitte's had a report out saying the next phase of 5G will involve consolidation among vendors. Do you think that's going to happen? And are you an acquirer if there's going to be consolidation?
You know, if you look over the past 15 years, if you go back to 2010 or a bit before that, there were like almost 15 vendors, and now it's down to 3-4. So the reality is we've seen a lot of consolidation. Will it happen in the future? I don't know. That depends on the regulatory environment, etc. But it's not clear. Most technology stacks in other parts, whether it's in processors or it's in chip for mobile phones or in data centers, it's in reality very consolidated markets. So maybe there will be further consolidation. I don't know.
Finally, let me ask you about OpenRAN. AT&T just inked a massive $14 billion OpenRAN contract with you. This means technology at a lower cost. Just give us a sense as to how relevant this is for you and for the industry.
That's a contract we won, as you know, so it's an important contract for us. I think what's really the key here is actually what we're achieving. We're building a network that's cloud-based, it's programmable, it's going to have a high performance. That's what we're transforming AT&T into. That will of course be built upon OpenRAN standards and interfaces. So that's going to be a critical part. But it's actually giving the consumers a completely new type of user experience. That's what we're actually after. And we can do that in a very cost-efficient way together with AT&T. That's good for them and good for us.
For those that know nothing about OpenRAN, how would you describe it in terms of its significance?
Significant. It's one technology evolution, actually. And it contains, I think, the most important part is the separation of hardware and software. And that's where we launched Cloud RAN, and it's actually commercially deployed in AT&T's network already. And that allows that hardware-software separation. When you do that, you create a flexibility for the operator to invest where they need capacity and where they need certain features. So it gives a more flexible type of investment frame for the customers.
Just a takeaway message, biggest challenge for the industry from here?
The biggest challenge is clearly the volume development. So I think everyone on this planet today depend on mobile connectivity. And we use more and more of it. Every day we use more data. That needs to be accommodated by leveraging new technologies, new spectrum, and that's why 5G is so important to get that build out to happen.